Hello, cryptid-shaped friends. It is I, Tiffany, your lead cryptid here, and we are starting in on my next huge cosplay bill, and I mean pretty big. This is going to be both a costume for myself, but also a matching costume for my partner, plus we're entering in to big props. So the first thing I'm going to do is start on the undergarments for my character. So we are cosplaying Eisenhorn and Bequin from the Warhammer 40K universe. Eisenhorn is an inquisitor with the Imperium, and Bequin is part of his entourage. Bequin is also what they call an untouchable or a blank. Basically, you can't deal with her with psychic powers. She doesn't exist to them, so she makes normal people uncomfortable, and psychers hate it. She's also the most badass. She's only in the books right now, so if you haven't read the Eisenhorn trilogy by Dan Abbott, you 100% should. But Eisenhorn does have a figure, and we are going to be referencing and utilizing that for his costume. Bequin, however, only has official art on her book covers because she is a main character in a follow-up series after the Eisenhorn trilogy. So I get to take a little bit of creative liberty. So this is the version of Bequin that I am going to be playing off of. I am not going to be making a one-to-one recreation, but I'm going to be taking that and putting my own spin on it. And because the Warhammer universe has a lot of pieces that feel very Victorian, Edwardian, over the top, I'm going to be diving very much into that Edwardian side inspiration for Bequin. So the very first thing I'm going to need are combinations and a corset. Now, I never published this video on the channel, but I did a few years ago make a pair of combinations. I did all this really beautiful frilly pink lace, and you're thinking, great, you already have it. Joke's on me though. I gained quite a bit of weight from when I made this pair to now, which means, unfortunately, this non-elastic waist doesn't fit anymore. And these are built in a way that sizing it up from this pre-made piece would honestly be very difficult. So it's going to be better just to start from scratch. Thankfully, I, as you've seen many times here, trace out my patterns. What this means is I don't have to reprint and re-put together this pattern. I can just pull it out, trace my new size, and keep going. It's one of the main reasons why I do trace out patterns is I don't like to force myself to either have to reprint and tape, which is my least favorite part of print at home, or go buy a second version of the pattern when my size fluctuates, because we all have that happen. So I always trace it out onto this tracing paper. It also makes it a lot more easy to use, easy to modify. I don't worry about tearing the pattern paper or having weird bulky patterns because it's on computer paper. So I have already traced out the pattern. We are going to get that cut, and then we're going to dive in. This version of the combinations is just going to be cotton with some trim. I'm sticking to a black and white theme for this one instead of going whole hog into a big color like the pink set I already made, but these are going to still have a little bit of that flair for just some fun. We love a ruffle, we love a pretty trim, so that's what we're going to be doing. After the combinations, we're going to be making a corset, also keeping it pretty low-key with the trim and everything, but the corset's probably going to be a fun color. After that, we're going to dive into petticoats, skirts, the top, beautiful, gorgeous green and gold and brown fabrics, but we'll get there when we get there. So let's get making these combinations. So we're going to start by cutting all of our pattern pieces out of the cotton lawn. I don't particularly like cutting out fabric or dealing with pattern pieces, but it is the first step in all sewing projects. You cannot sew something if you don't have it cut out in the right shape from the fabric. So thankfully, this is a pretty easy pattern to do. Then we're going to start on the camisole portion, sewing those side seams all together, doing lovely French seams. They turned out so good. After that, we're going to put the button plackets on the front openings, left and right. You need both sides, obviously. And then some fabulous gathering stitches are going into the waist side of the camisole so that we can put that into the waistband later. So we have the top in a really nice space. We have this very well done button placket. We have flat felled seams for the inside and the gathering at the bottom where it will attach to the waistband. And now we're gonna set that aside for a little bit and start on the drawers, aka the pants section of this. So the interesting thing about these, as you can see, they are split drawers, which basically means that the part that goes all the way under that crotch seam is going to be open. Basically, this lets you go to the bathroom in the drawers, because back in the Edwardian period, they didn't have modern underwear the same way we do. So this was their underwear and it protected them, but they needed to be able to still go to the bathroom in all those skirts with everything without having to get fully undressed, right? So, and if you've ever tried to be wearing modern underwear in a corset, you know the struggle is real. So these are open along that crotch area, but we are obviously going to finish the seam there. So the first thing we need to do is match the back of the drawers to their respective left and right sides. And it's important that we note that because they have to fold over each other, because when you are standing in them normally, you don't see straight through, which is why you are going to get to be able to, still with covering, get to see the finished drawers on. Let's take the drawers to the sewing machine. We have the drawers hemmed and the inside put together in their little pleat zone. This bottom bit is getting a ruffle, which I have prepped. The ruffles as well have French seams. I've done the base hem of that. We have our gathering stitches in. So now this ruffle needs to attach to these drawers, and that's halfway through. Waistband, straps, buttons, a few little trim detail bits, and we are done with the combinations. So let's attach these ruffles. So the ruffles got attached to the bottom of the drawers and then sewn down. Did I grab footage of sewing the ruffles down? No, of course I did not. But then we move into the waistband trim. So I am just threading the black velvet ribbon through the trim here. Okay, so I have the waistband done with this trim, and it's a black velvet ribbon just to add a little bit of fun to it. I have also added that on to the straps. So that's going to be the main trim pieces here. I'm going to keep everything else pretty low key. The only other piece that we're going to do is at the legs where the ruffle is gonna be, we're going to do this really pretty little scallop trim with a black ribbon in the middle. And we're just gonna do the regular white cotton ruffles. That's all the trim that's gonna be on these combinations. And then I blathered on about a corset for a bit, but that's not relevant here. So instead, let me show you sewing this trim down. Like I said, it is going on the drawers right where the ruffle meets, so it's kind of hiding the seam and a little bit above the seam. But it turned out really, really cute, and I'm very pleased with this trim option. Okay, so we are making significant progress. We are really at the last end of things. So I have the bloomer piece all put together with the ruffles and that beautiful trim. We have the waistband attached. along with the top part of the camisole. We also have the waistband fully encased in a back lining. I did choose to do this where I attached the bloomers to this trimmed piece of the waistband, and then when I went to attach the camisole, I, right sides together, and I sandwiched the camisole between the trimmed waistband and the inner lining for the waistband, which automatically, hopefully you can see the difference, it's fully encased here. It also helped me fully encase the edges, and then I just folded over and stitched down the bottom part of the waistband. Since this is an internal garment and the stitching is white and the trim is white, I wasn't really worried about seeing my stitches, so I did not hand sew down the inside of the waistband, but if it was something that would have been visible to anyone seeing the costume, I would have done that. So now we have our beautiful button plackets here. All we have to do that is left is attach the straps, the facing for the top, and put on our buttons. And make buttonholes, obviously, because you cannot close something with buttons if you don't have buttonholes. So we are only a couple steps from done, and I'm really excited. These are turning out so cute. I think keeping the trims and everything simple this time was the way to go, and let's get these final touches done.
So final touches definitely means marking out the straps and attaching them there. I did try this on before sewing it down to make sure the straps fit properly, and I highly recommend you do that as well. Then it's time to sew down the facing with the straps. So everything feels a little twisty because you have to make sure your straps are the right way so that when you flip it correctly, there's no twisting. So it can be a little bit finicky, but always gives you a really nice finish. Now it is time to figure out how many buttons and their spacing. I really like this tool for it because it puts everything at exactly the right spacing, and you can really get an accurate fit with your buttons. Buttonholes were done off camera because they are a struggle, but here I am sewing on the buttons. I'm placing these pins where the buttons are and sewing over it to give a little extra wiggle room with the thread so that the buttons have some give and close much more smoothly and snugly than they would if the button was super tight.
She's done. Is she 100% no mistakes perfect? No, that's not who I am as a person. Is she quite well made and everything is encased and finished as absolutely well as I can? Yes, and honestly, that's what matters. So as you can see, we have buttons complete, straps are on, waistband is here, ruffles are good, and all we have left to do is put the whole thing on and give a little twirl. So I'll see you in the reveal. And there you have it. We've completed layer 1 of my Bequin costume. I'm very pleased with how this came together. I really like the looseness at the top. Again, this is essentially the undershirt and underwear all in one. Next, we will be working on the corset that will go over this. And I can't wait to make progress there. We will be making the pretty house-made corset, so I will catch you all next time. Stay safe out there, cryptid friends. Bye.